Hi everyone, my name is Anna at Migrant Dr. Mom, and thank you so much for finding time to join me today. So today's topic, I'm going to, just discuss a topic that has sort of been requested in in various ways for me to cover. So a lot of the doctors that have asked me a few questions, some of them is how challenging was it to get your first job? What did you do? What was the process? So today I've just decided to be as candid as possible, as open, as honest, and somewhat vulnerable to just share of my journey of how I actually got my first job in Australia. And you may remember that in my last, in one of the videos that I've done, the standard pathway of application, of how to be an IMG in Australia, I've covered how you can get registered as a medical doctor, as a junior medical doctor in Australia. So if you haven't watched that, please watch. And so you will understand some of the things that I will mention, because I will literally just be covering, what I did personally to be able to, get my standard registration done. So I must be honest, I started the process way back in 2014. And I'll be honest, I only came to Australia in 2017. So that took about 3 years process, of preparing for exams and stuff like that. And I just want step by step to walk with you to walk with me and, remind myself of what the process had been and has been and so far, to enable me to get, my first job in Australia. So I never for once thought that I wanted to come to Australia. A good friend of mine, came to Australia and she was like, Anna, you've got to come. You've got to come fast because it's a good place to work, but also because I would like you to be here as a friend. So, so after back and forth, I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. And then there wasn't so much information, there wasn't so many YouTube channels that you guys see today. And there wasn't much information, and knowing the processes. And there were not many doctors as they are now that I know who work in Australia. So it was sort of just trying to find that information, looking, researching, reaching out to one or two people that I was later introduced to, and getting that information that I needed. So I prepared for my exams. I think I took about 6 months to prepare. And then I did my exams, my part one exams, and I did them here in WA. And the reason why I chose to do my, exams in WA was so that I knew I could do some, networking, connections, and sort of, just essentially get to know the place that I want to go, and also just get to know people, because people are an important resource. I always say those are the people that will give you a bit of pointers on what to do. So passed my exams. The results normally come back after 4 weeks. So I'd gone back home, got my results, and now I had to start hunting for a job. So generally, when you're looking at registration for a junior doctor or a doctor on the standard pathway, essentially the important things would be, to have work rights and to have, your AMC 1 and 2 preferably, but even with AMC 1, and then to have English, language. So there are a few things that were working for me. The biggest for me that was working was I had my recency of practice. By that, I essentially mean I was still working in my country. I was still, doing my clinical job. So my recency of practice was intact. I'd done my English, my IELTS, and I'd passed. And then I'd done my AMC 1 and I'd passed. So I was actually eligible for limited registration on the standard pathway. But some of the things that were not working for me then was the fact that I did not have work rights. So essentially, whichever job that I was going to apply for would have to be one in which they were willing to give me, sponsorship for a work visa. And, this would have been essentially different for somebody that has work rights, that already is in the country. That could have been, a bit, whether it's easier or not, I'm not too sure. But that is one thing that wasn't working for me. The fact that I didn't have work rights, the fact that I didn't have AMC2, and also the fact that I didn't have Australian experience. So nonetheless, I hit the road running. I I joke and I say the number of applications I did for the job. I sent applications. And remember, the thing with Australia is you're not only applying for a job, you are doing your selection criteria, you're updating your CV to fit the job that you're applying for. And I'll be specific so that especially for the people that have specifically asked me to cover it step by step. So how do you get to apply for a job? Where do I apply for the job? So usually in Australia, there is the RMO campaign where essentially the participating hospitals, put in, whatever they need, they put in the eligibility criteria, and then you as an RMO gets in there and you apply, you do your selection criteria based on the hospitals that you want to work at, and then you submit your applications by the due dates, and then you sit and sort of wait for, to be invited for an interview. So what I did, I actually did apply in that pool, but I never got a response from that pool. So then, and time is going past, you're just not sure what else should I do. That information is not so available. So what I decided, I can't even remember who advised me, but I remember I applied, to individual hospital. I started checking, websites for individual hospitals. I checked Seek, I checked Indeed, I checked, and so essentially every hospital I would look for the vacancies, and if there was any vacancy, I would send an email to whoever was listed up on the vacancy, and then I would put in my applications. Remember, there are some hospitals that apply away from the RMO campaign, and essentially, usually those are the timings when they need to, they need to fill up a position away from the campaign. But also some of the private hospitals sometimes apply on their websites directly. You can apply on their website or put in the job vacancies on their website. So that's where actually my first job, I actually got it that way. In case it wasn't in the RMO campaign. So those are some of the places, or that is one important tip that I would ask or tell somebody that's looking for their first job in Australia as a doctor. Reach out and and check on the private hospitals, check for the job adverts there, check Seek, check if somebody somebody that works somewhere, ask them what are the hospitals, or even just Google the private hospitals in Western Australia, private hospitals in Gold Coast, private hospitals in blah, blah, blah. And then try and reach out. There'll always be an email address and the person, that you can communicate with, and then, you can get a bit of additional information. And then the number of selection criteria I did, the number of review of CVs I did, my goodness, I can't even count. To be honest, it was just on and on and on. And a lot of people did not respond. And that naturally, takes you back, discourages you. But, when you've set your mind and to do something, wherever they say, wherever there is a will, there is a way. So I just kept applying and applying. And I remember there was a public holiday back at home. I can't remember whether it was Labor Day or something. I actually decided to put about 3,000 Kenyan shillings on my phone. And I was just literally calling hospitals, and trying to speak to somebody in those departments just to follow up and see what happened to my application, what should I do better next time, and stuff like that, just to try and, and find that much needed information. So that's the second tip that I would say, try and knock as many doors as you can. Try and follow up your applications, preferably with an email. But if you're not getting through an email, nobody's responding, just that persistence of, trying to call and just saying, look, I'm so sorry to bother you, but essentially I'm just trying to chase up this to try and find out what I can do better next time when I apply, or just to know what you would want in an applicant, so that way you are preparing yourself for your next sort of opening that will come. The next thing that I did was I actually, after the sort of persistence back and forth, I got a response from one of the private hospitals that they were happy to give me an interview. And unfortunately, because of the time difference, I can't even remember what was happening. I did not get that email on time. So I said I'll try to be as open and candid as possible. So when the following day, during that time, I think the email had said, we'll give you a ring at 12 noon, which was about, I think, 7 a.m. back at home. And I'll be honest, I just literally left the shower, and then I get this unknown number, an international number calling me. And so I pick the call, and gosh, it was my interview. You can imagine, first and foremost, you're not ready. I wasn't, I didn't. It was a mistake on my side. Essentially, I had not checked my emails, which is something that you need to check your emails every so often. I didn't even realize I was going to get interviewed that morning. I'm not ready. I haven't even reviewed the mission, vision, values of the place, and I have to, you just have to go with the flow. You can't say, call me back later. So I remember I did that interview, and somehow, I think I did so well that they gave me the job offer. I'm not too sure, to be honest. I was just freaking out because, you can imagine, you've just literally, you're not even dressed up, but good thing is it's over the phone. So I gave it my best, I answered their questions. Because I wasn't prepared, I didn't have any questions to ask them when they asked me, do you have any questions for us? But somehow, you just have to think on your 2 feet then. And fortunately for me, they gave me the job offer. And that was about, I think, August of 2015. And so I started the process of applying, sending the paperwork to APRA and all that. And then all of a sudden, things just went quiet. I did not get any response. I did not get any response from APRA. The way APRA will say, we've received your paperwork, blah, 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 we need this. I just did not hear anything. And for me, that was like a red flag, because I was like, what's going on? So I sent emails to try and figure out, what was happening. And I didn't get a response. So what I did is I actually made a phone call. Persistence. I made a phone call. And all I was told is the vacancy has been filled. So you can imagine. You can imagine my frustration. You can imagine the tears. You can imagine the uncertainty, the questions in my mind. Where did I go wrong? What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? Gosh, that was, looking back, that was quite a blow. That was quite a blow to all the efforts that I'd done, to all my prospects of coming to Australia. And to be honest, that would have been the time that I would have said, look, there's nothing to lose. I have an opening where I am. I've sort of waiting to start my ONG. I can just stop everything and just go ahead and start my training here and forget about the process of Australia. But deep down, I knew this is what I wanted, and this is what I wanted to do. So what I did is I sat down and wrote an email. I wrote an email and said, look, I just would like to know, what happened, blah, 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 back and forth, back and forth. I got a response back. It wasn't what I wanted, but I wrote a last email and said, look, I know this has happened, but in future, I still want to be able to work with you guys. And that's where I left it. And so I was back to square one, sending emails, applying for jobs. Some places I did not even know where they were. Right now, I can look back and check my emails and go like, oh my God, I wanted to go to the center of, God knows where. I think Darwin, oh my God, so many far wide places that I'd, Christmas, oh my goodness, all the places that I had tried to apply for the job. So essentially, I decided to, retrace my steps and ask myself, what am I going to do? So I did apply for the RMO pool for the year 2015. And obviously I remember I applied to one of the tertiary hospitals, Sir Charles Gardner. And they graciously, they responded and they said, thank you for taking time to put in the applications, but unfortunately for this time, you've been unsuccessful. So I looked at that email and I was like, what to do? What am I doing wrong? What can I do differently? So what I decided was I was going to write an email back and say, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to interview with you. I would still have wished to work with you. But at this point in time, I'm wondering whether, you can give me a bit of feedback of what I can do better next time to make myself, a better, a better applicant, or to increase my chances of getting the job. And trust me, that was an eye-opener. They actually responded, That email was all that I needed, was God sent. Because that email gave me so much insights on what I needed to do for my next job application. And I think on there it was indicated that, look, the main thing why you did not get in was because you lack Australian experience. And I remember I was like, what do they mean? How will I get Australian experience if they don't give me a job? You have to give me, I didn't respond that on email, obviously, but that's what I kept telling myself and, and the people around me. Why are they not giving me an opportunity? How will I get Australian experience without them giving me, an opportunity to work here? So obviously I was frustrated, but they went ahead and said, look, the best thing for you would be to try and get an observer position in Australia. And then I know it will not count as experience, but it will be an opportunity for you to see how the system works, to see how how the program, how people do things here. And I believe that is what caused me to now start looking for observer positions, And remember, observer positions are not paid positions, so you have to plan your travel, you have to plan accommodation, you have to plan your meals, you have to plan to take away time from your regular job and stuff like that. So, and again, you have to get a position, you have to get a place where they accept observership. So they actually told me in Charlie's they don't accept observers. But then, he actually went ahead and told me some of the places that I could approach for an observer position. So I got back into it. I sent emails and emails and emails. I'm looking for an observer position. This is my availability. Do you have anything coming up? Can you kindly consider me? So I sent all those out. And I think the main thing that I would write on my email is, hi, this is Anna from Kenya. I'm looking for blah, blah, blah. And then I would like, write my emails. And actually one of the hospitals responded and said, hi, hi, Anna from Kenya. We would like to offer you an observer position on the dates that you have listed. And I was so happy. I was actually so grateful because not many people had responded to my emails, but this hospital had graciously accepted me to come and do an observer with them. So then I got onto it.